My name is Travis Bambush, and this is my final individual project for my Ethics 3311 course, the subject of which is Magic the Gathering's 30th Anniversary Booster Edition and its relation to the reserve list. This presentation will begin with an explanation of the background, covering the necessary history, stakeholders, and consequences of the issue. There will then be a discussion of 6 alternative courses of action, as well as the considerations and evaluations of each. Finally, a conclusion is reached, explaining the best and second best options of the 6 previously discussed courses of action. So what is Magic the Gathering? Magic the Gathering is a trading card game created in 1993 by a man by the name of Richard Garfield. It was published then and continues to be published by the company Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro. Magic the Gathering is regarded as the progenitor of the trading card game, inspiring many others, including popular franchises such as Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! After it. It is also the first appearance of the booster pack, which is a randomized method of distribution with various rarities. The idea being that a player can purchase booster packs as a sort of lottery ticket. They don't know what's inside of them until they open them, outside of being guaranteed a set number of cards of each rarity. The creation of the reserve list. If we look at the Star City Games article from 2022, it describes the reserve list as being 572 entries, composed primarily of rare cards that were printed originally between 1993 and 1999. The reserve list states that these cards cannot be printed with some stipulations. It won't be printed. They have a functionality identical rule where Wizards of the Coast has said that they will not reprint cards that are technically different but functionally the same. It only applies to physically printed cards, so tokens created by other cards in the game are acceptable, as well as digital versions. There are no restrictions on. And it only applies to tournament legal cards. So, for example, sometimes Wizards of the Coast puts out these extra large prize cards that are blown up versions of the playable cards, and obviously those also don't count. The reserve list was originally created because back in the game's infancy, in 1995, Wizards of the Coast struggled to distribute the product enough to sate demand. Their solution to this, instead of reprinting the first initial sets, was to do a reprint set, where the original sets had all been printed with a black border. This reprint set was to be a selection of cards from those first couple sets, reprinted with a white border, to decrease the value and make the game more accessible. However, Wizards of the Coast overestimated the demand for this product and grossly overprinted it, causing prices on a lot of those early cards to crash, and raising objections and frustrations from the original adopters and investors of the game. As a reaction to this, Wizards of the Coast created the reserve list, which provides a stable financial point for the game to grow out of, saying that they would never reprint those cards again. Why is the reserve list important? Well, the maintenance of the reserve list is important due to a couple factors. The first being the financial stability of the game. The fact that these cards have inherent value lends credibility and prestige to the game. Some of these cards on the reserve lists can be worth upwards of tens of thousands of dollars, with the most recent, or the most expensive one, as listed per the MTG Stocks website. The alpha and beta editions of the Black Lotuses can be purchased for $60,000 and $42,000 respectively. So what is Magic 30th Anniversary Edition. It is a booster set product, so it is not a set amount of cards. You don't get the same one every time. It's random. It is effectively a one-to-one reprint of the original beta set, the second set ever printed, a set which has a very large portion of its cards on the reserve list, particularly the expensive ones. Now, Wizards of the Coast has justified this in their declaration of these cards as being proxies or not real cards, which is surprising and comes across as disingenuous to the community due to Wizards of the Coast's previous position on proxies. They cracked down quite hard on them in 2016 per the article on their website. Their lead designer, Mark Rosewater, in one of his many answering fan question Tumblr posts on his blog named Blogatog, also made a statement that not to exclude players based on whether the cards they're playing are real or fake, lending further credibility to the arguments that Wizards of the Coast was using this product to skirt the reserve lists. Another controversial issue regarding this is the price of the product. This product was sold in boxes of 4 booster packs with 15 cards each, so 60 cards, for $999 American each. This combined with the availability, which in the Commander's Herald article by Paul Pergentart reports that they were only available for 40 minutes to be purchased, really shines a negative light on Wizards of the Coast declaration that this set was intended to be a celebration of Magic's 30th anniversary, as spending $1,000 American on 60 random pieces of cardboard is not within the budget of most people. Now, how does this relate to ethics and the course? Well, it is quite unethical to make a promise to a community of people and then do your best to skirt around it, as well as to disingenuously claim that a certain product exists and you should be forgiven for skirting around that previous promise, because in context you were creating it as a celebration of the game, and then sell it at a price point and for a duration of time that makes it inaccessible to the vast majority of the player base. Our first option, the maintenance of the status quo, or the do-nothing strategy. I'm going to open this section with a brief discussion on our stakeholders. Our primary stakeholders are, of course, Wizards of the Coast, who stands to gain probably the most and lose the most from this issue, where they have the opportunity to make quite a bit of money, but also have their reputation severely impacted. Other stakeholders would be Hasbro shareholders, as financially Wizards of the Coast is propping up Hasbro as a corporation almost single-handedly, as per the financial statements in the reference. And we also have reserve list card owners, those who own these egregiously expensive pieces of cardboard have quite a lot of equity and value to lose should the prices on them crash, as well as having confidence in Wizards of the Coast to keep their promise going forward. And our last stakeholder is the players of the game, the community as a whole, who, again, have that confidence in Wizards of the Coast to consider, but also with this product we're looking to celebrate the game that they love and enjoy so much. So back to our first option, doing nothing. This impacts consumer confidence positively, as Wizards of the Coast doesn't break their promise regarding the reserve list, but they won't make any money selling the product. which is obviously bad for Wizards of the Coast. It's not great for their shareholders. It's also not great for the celebration of the game because the product never exists in the first place, so there's no celebration there, no appreciation. Long term, it does most likely impact stock value positively as consumer confidence will stay stable and people will continue to purchase products from Wizards of the Coast. How good a solution is this? It's pretty good. It maintains the consumer confidence, keeping the promise to the community. The only real downside here is that it doesn't support the celebration of the 30th anniversary. Our first real alternative, or in this case option 2, is to produce the product but at a lower price. This will of course lower consumer confidence by weakening their promise to maintain the reserve list, but isn't quite so obviously a cash grab as the $1,000 product is itself. Wizards of the Coast will make less money, but the production of this at a lower price point allows more people to purchase it and enjoy the 30th and appreciate the 30th anniversary. How good of a solution is this? Well, it's okay. There's still some slight erosion of consumer confidence, and they're skirting the reserve list on a technicality, but it is more accessible to the general player base and community, and they get to enjoy the product and play with it and appreciate it. Producing at a lower price point does consume more reprint equity for Wizards of the Coast, though, where the value of the cards will go down some amount, which means that they will have less opportunity to make money reprinting them in the future. Our third alternative is to print the set as is, except print it as tournament legal cards as opposed to the proxies that they said they were. This would wreck consumer confidence as it pretty well breaks their reserve list promise. Wizards of the Coast would make probably a similar amount of money, but there would be even less accessibility of the anniversary product to the average player, as having these cards as tournament legal would drive the already limited stock into the hands of tournament players as opposed to simply collectors. This is a overall poor choice. It erodes consumer confidence and makes the set even less accessible to people as the tournament playability heavily increases demand. Our fourth alternative is to rescind the reserve list prior to printing the product and then print them as proxies. This is pretty damaging to the company's credibility going forward, where they have said that while maybe this product probably doesn't break their promise with the reserve list, other products going forward almost certainly will, otherwise why rescind it? Doing this would crash reserve list prices. Wizards of the Coast would probably make a similar amount of money off the product as they did in reality, but doing this would heavily damage the brand and make the actually probably increase the accessibility to the anniversary product, where if Wizards of the Coast is willing to rescind the reserve list, it means that they're more likely to print similar products in the future, potentially as tournament legal. So how good of a solution is this? Again, this one's not great. It damages consumer confidence. It does potentially increase the availability of these cards to the community to celebrate the game's 30th anniversary. But overall, it's kind of just what they did, but worse. The fifth option is, again, to rescind the reserve list prior to the printing of the set, but to print it as tournament legal this time. Kind of a combination of the two. This would, again, heavily damage the company's credibility. All the comments I made in the previous option regarding the crashing of reserve list prices, the promise of making further or the expectation that further similar sets will be printed is still there, except that this set is actually tournament legal. So it's quite similar to the previous option, except there is less accessibility to the general public and the general player base for these cards because there will be a higher demand due to their tournament playability. And the final option here is to print the set as tournament legal without rescinding the reserve list, while also printing or producing it and selling it for a higher price, even higher than the $1,000 that they asked in reality. So this fully breaks their promise of the reserve list to the community as they're printing the cards as tournament legal, and an even more egregious price shows even less respect to their consumers and the community around the game. And the effect of that would probably be that Wizards of the Coast actually makes less money than they'd like, as there are less people who can purchase this product. It also would heavily damage their brand, possibly leading to lower stocks. Generally bad for the investors, especially looking out long term. So is this a good solution? This is probably the worst of the six. It breaks consumer confidence. It provides the least amount of accessibility to the community and would potentially produce even less product or less profit than the original price line did because less people can afford it or might view it as being not as worth it. So our conclusion. What action would I recommend? I believe that the best option would be for Wizards of the Coast to release the 30th anniversary set as proxies, as they did, at a lower price. I believe that this is the best option, as it's the best compromise between the four groups of stakeholders. It allows Wizards of the Coast to still produce the product at a profit, and they don't need to sell these cards for $1,000 a box. They're pieces of cardboard. They cost basically nothing to make. And these sales will still contribute positively to Hasbro's growth, increasing stock prices looking forward, keeping the shareholders happy, and it potentially keeps the product at a price point that will allow majority of the community to enjoy and appreciate it and be able to celebrate the 30th anniversary of this game that they're so invested in. The only stakeholder of the four stakeholders who isn't totally satisfied is the reserve list owner, where printing these cards will theoretically devalue the reserve list cards in their possession. But the limited print run combined with the fact that they're proxies and not originals will hopefully curtail that enough to keep them happy. What's the second best option? The second best option here, I believe, is to not release the set at all. Wizards of the Coast could definitely find other ways to celebrate the game's 30th anniversary than trying to skirt around their reserve list promise. They don't need to sell these packs for a grotesque amount. They took what should have been a happy and enjoyable occasion for the community and turned it into a disgusting, in my opinion, show of like capitalism and just an attempt to make money off their consumer base while simultaneously disrespecting them.